Alright everyone, oink oink, little piggies lined up at the trough. It's feeding time. The corporation's picking away at the flesh left on the corpse that was once a strong economy at this point. Link in the description, archived of course. The corporations, the powers that be, the real ones, the billionaires in the United States, most of which have a lot of money abroad. It's how they avoid paying taxes, to be clear. It's the reason why they all have Swiss bank accounts or exist in the Cayman Islands or Cyprus or something. Qatar, Dubai or something. These people overwhelmingly support the idea of the Democrats federalizing the election system. And liberals, they just sit there with happy faces on, with little glowing smirks, like something out of Brave New World. They just took their happy pills. It's like that video game there where you take pills and you have to balance between seeing the real world around you, which is miserable and filled with weirdos and zombies and shit, and taking the pills, which makes things look nice or something. And I can't remember the name of the game. Looked pretty good, actually. Semi-open world, if I remember correctly. Anyway, why would corporations line up to back something like this? Corporations exist just to make money. Well, because it'll save them money. You federalize the election system, they don't have to pick away at the states anymore. They can just do it at the federal level. It'll make it way easier for them to hand off money to Congress people and buy them off. To control the elections, to control policy, to control everything. By the way, when Beijing Biden and all these morons there say, the rich need to pay their fair share. Yeah, bullshit. You're going to bite the hand that feeds you. You're like a little lapdog. You Biden and all these others are these corporations as Schumer is to Pelosi. A little pissy lapdog. You make a mess and get scooted around once in a while. If you try to bite the hand that feeds you, get a stern kick in the jaw. That's how these people operate. Now, first and foremost, pinned comment down below if you're watching this video on YouTube. Keep in mind, I make 4, sometimes 5 videos a day. Only 2 of them end up on YouTube unless there's a literary update, because YouTube's algorithms don't favor actual independent commentary anymore. They hate people like me, look for any excuse to ban us, and so we have to tiptoe around. But I can talk about verboten issues on Dailymotion, who literally doesn't give a shit about what I do because I'm one of their biggest creators. BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, it's all good there. It's a love fest. So you should join me on one or more of those platforms. I actually added almost 200 subs the other day on Dailymotion. You should definitely, if you had to sign up for any of them right now, Dailymotion I think would be first. Clankdom's trying to seize control of the site and become the biggest political presence there because I think it would be mildly amusing. Anyway, when all of the corporations agree that something is a good idea, it's because of profits, like wokeness. Some people say, well, it's woke capitalism. No, don't think about it that way. It's just capitalism. A perverted kind of warped monopolistic version of it. Keep in mind, corporate monopolies only exist because of state power. They literally cannot form any other way. When you learned history, for example, back in high school, if you learned it at all, and the educational system keeps crumbling, you probably learned about the Gilded Age. You learned about the coal barons, the steel barons, the rail barons, the Vanderbilts, and so forth, the Rockefellers, all the monopolistic corporatists of the late 1800s. What you didn't probably learn about, unless it was an AP course, was carpetbagging, which is the fact that, especially Northerners, because of the cronyism and Tammany Hall sort of stuff, rigged the government, and the government and those corporate entities helped one another. The monopolies didn't form because evil capitalists got together one day and formed trusts. They were promulgated and allowed and even promoted by local and state officials. Carpetbaggers. So you had an administration, a governor, a president, or whatever. Instead of appointing the best and brightest, they would appoint personal friends and mafioso types. They would then partner with corporations. The corporation gave me $1,000. Of course they've got the grant to this rail line. Oh, $500 came in from a Vanderbilt over here. Yes, of course you can build your factory. Oh, workers' protections be damned. It's funny because we could have put the genie back in the bottle without the entire progressive movement, without the workers' rights, environmental rights thing, because those monopolies never needed to form in the first place. And you had union busting, you had people strong-arming one another. It was a time of bomb-throwing anarchists too, so it's a rather unpleasant time in most history if you were anywhere near an industrial area. And if you weren't, you were a peasant farmer still. It was a very strange time in the world for most people. Anyway, corporations, having formed these monopolies and trusts, They still have them. Facebook is a de facto monopoly. Google and Apple a de facto duopoly over the App Store smartphone world, despite the fact that they openly collude together to ban individuals and apps and so forth off their collective stores that represent nearly a total of the app movement, like something like 96% or 97% at this point. They collude and communicate together and make decisions as though they were one entity. But by the way, we already have laws against these sorts of things, but now they're looking ahead at bigger things. Not just money, being able to declare an individual a non-entity and every bank will spurn them, registrars will spurn them, they won't even be able to fight back because they'll be mass deplatformed in a 24-hour period. While they're sleeping, they completely get throttled, their voice is completely erased, and they're no longer able to be a dissident against corporate power anymore, are they? Now they're trying to go for the jugular, which is the election system itself. The fact is that if the election system is federalized under the plan that the Democrats have in mind, and by the way, silver lining is that the courts would be very, very unlikely to uphold it. But that takes time. It could take years. It could take decades because the court could refuse to hear the case. This happens quite often. Courts love to punt for political reasons and self-serving reasons. If they do this, what ends up happening is that chicanery and shenanigans by whatever party happens to be in power at the time are assured. They will happen because they will be empowered to do so. The Democrats' proposal, essentially what they're trying to brand it as is, well, all these states are trying to deny voters' rights. They're trying to keep people from voting, including even in areas like Georgia, where elements of the law actually make it easier to vote. For instance, in Georgia, it sets a minimum cap for the per precinct that mail-in ballots can be accepted by. Like you can sign up to get one. You have to request the mail-in ballot. They extended the time. Some of the areas in Georgia had a shorter time than what was actually proposed in the GOP's bill. In Texas, you have the Democrats literally ignoring the wishes of their own constituents right now to prevent a voter ID law. To prevent a law that basically has two functions. Number one, you have to show an ID to vote, which makes sense because you should be a citizen and a resident of the state in which you're trying to vote. Fairly self-explanatory. Something like 90% of the U.S. population supports that. The other element, and the other main element, is you can't hand out water and food and shit like that too close to a polling place. Well, that makes sense. Nobody wants to faint from it. Like, the average person can't, fucking bring a bottle of water. Oh my god, I'm going to faint, I'm having hypoglycemia, someone hand me a cookie. Well, fucking bring a cookie then and be prepared like a normal, rational human being. If you're not capable of doing that, then you're probably mentally you shouldn't be voting at all. Founders would have considered you rather slow. He's a rather dull boy. I think that he may not be able to vote or hold a musket. Not part of the militia. Probably shoot himself or others that he's not supposed to. Trust me, when big corporations are lining up to support something, it's because it's not good. It's just like with wokeness. It's just a way to sell products. It's just a way to make corporate, sometimes exploitative brands seem more palatable. Like with Gay Pride Month or something. Apple flies the rainbow flag. But Apple also contributes to the nation of China's economy, where they have suicide nets outside of their factories, and they use rare earth components that come from slave labor in the DPRK, as well as in China. Nike, they use components that come from child labor, slave labor, and everything else under the sun, with enormous environmental damage. All these people promote Chinese propaganda as well. But they support gay rights. Well, they don't care. They just want gay people to buy a phone because then they make money off of them. They don't care how gay or super straight you are, as long as you're buying their woke product. And so it makes people feel better about the product, even though behind the scenes, they're exploiting millions of people, causing climate change, the great boogeyman. All of them are involved with promulgating it. Even the most green-friendly style companies, like you look at Apple's campus, they get a bunch of solar panels up. Woohoo! Green energy! See, Tim Cook gets it. No, he doesn't. Strip mining in the DPRK is why his phones fucking exist in the first place. Causing, again, huge amounts of runoff. Acid released into rivers and shit like that. Scarifying the earth. By the way, using coal mainly to actually mine it out because the DPRK's 50 years behind the rest of the world technologically. Still using fucking steam shovels and shit. And yeah, that's what corporations do. When they're lining up to shill for election federalization, people need to be very, very concerned. It's de facto fascism. That's about all. Peace out.